guys, it's Beth, and I'm here to announce another new format on Kin Eats, Kin Eats Entertaining. We have loved hearing all the comments about how many of you are learning to cook for the first time. Well, it is time to take those skills and kick them up a notch and share them with your friends and family. We're gonna throw some parties. Over the next couple weeks, I'm gonna share with you some of my favorite menus. These are dishes that I've made dozens of times for friends and family that always get rave reviews. Many of you have said that you want our videos to be longer, so now's your chance. You're gonna be able to sit back and relax and see 6 different recipes, all aimed to one party theme, from the cocktail all the way down to the dessert. So to kick things off, I'm gonna show you how to create the perfect summer dinner party. For starters, my fabulous lemon balm cocktail. It's cool and refreshing and just the thing to set the mood. For hors d'oeuvres, I'm gonna show you how to make my cucumber salmon summer cups. It's an elegant looking hors d'oeuvre that comes together in minutes. Then I'm going to share with you a really easy appetizer that my husband loves and was inspired by our garden's first harvest. For a first course, you won't want to miss my grilled Italian garden salad, another elegant presentation that's super simple to do. For the main course, I'll show you how to make my herbed lemon chicken, a dish that always gets rave reviews. And for a side dish, it's Israeli couscous with sugar snap peas, which are at their peak right now, and fresh parsley. And for dessert, it's one of my favorites, my fig and almond tart that my family goes nuts for. It's elegant and delicious and the perfect finish to this summertime meal. So this menu has special meaning for me. Years ago, when my husband and I were first married, we lived in an apartment for about 10 years before we could afford to save up and buy a house. And every summer that would roll around, we would sit outside our little stoop and we would sit and dream about a garden that one day hopefully we would have. And a few years later, we saw a foreclosure, and it was a house that had been sit vacant for probably about a year, and nobody wanted it because the yard was a complete disaster. It was overgrown, there were weeds everywhere, no one had really cared for this little house for probably over a year. But we saw it and we envisioned our perfect garden. We lived in the house for about a year or so, and then one Mother's Day, my husband surprised me, and a couple of guys showed up at our door that morning, ready to help us dig up the yard and plant the garden. That summer, about mid-July, we had things growing all over the place. I had no idea how to garden, and so things just became completely overgrown, but it was wonderful. And so we decided to throw a really big dinner party and invite all of our friends to enjoy all of the fruits of our labor, and this menu that I'm sharing with you today is inspired by that very first dinner. So sit back and relax. I'm gonna show you how to pull off the perfect summer dinner party. Here in LA, it's boiling hot in the summertime. And when you have people for dinner, chances are they've been in the car for about 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. So they get here and they're hot and cranky. So I like this cocktail because it's cool and refreshing and helps take the edge off. All you do is in a tumbler glass, so probably about 4 ounces or so, you want to squeeze the juice of 1 lemon. If you don't have a lemon squeezer, it's really a gadget that I love. I'm not really one for a lot of expensive gadgets. This one, it only costs a few bucks at a kitchen store, but it really makes squeezing lemons so much easier. To that, you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of agave syrup. The agave syrup is gonna sweeten your cocktail. Now, a lot of cocktail recipes will call for simple syrup. Simple syrup is just hot water with dissolved sugar in it that's then cooled. But in the summertime when it's hot, the last thing I wanna do is boil a big pot of water and wait for it to dissolve sugar. So this avoids having to do all that. To that, you're gonna add 1 ounce of vodka. Now you could do more, you could go to 2 ounces, but really the point here is to create a refreshing cocktail that just takes the edge off just a little bit. You don't wanna take it too far. You're gonna stir that up and then you're gonna add ice. And then whatever room is left in the glass, you're gonna top it off with a little sparkling water. Then you're gonna garnish the cocktail with 2 sprigs of thyme. I know it might sound like a strange garnish for a cocktail, but it does 2 things. One is it really helps accentuate the flavor of the lemon. If you think of all the great recipes out there that involve lemon and thyme, it's kind of the same principle. And I also feel that it just sort of helps bring in the garden theme, having a cocktail that's garnished with a fresh herb. And then you also want to just run your finger along the stem, kind of crumpling the leaves as you go. And what that will do is release all of the oils that are in the herb and help it be its most fragrant. So that makes 1 drink. Now, if the idea of sitting around making individual cocktails for everybody overwhelms you a bit, I totally get it. And you can make these as a pitcher. What you would do is you would take all of the lemon juice, all of the agave syrup, and the vodka, mix that all together and put that in a pitcher. Then over to the side, you're gonna have a little bucket of ice and your sparkling water. That way, guests when they arrive can come and serve themselves and mix their own drinks. You don't wanna add the ice or the sparkling water too soon, because what that's gonna do is actually dilute the cocktail and water down the drink. When it is hot outside, there's nothing more refreshing than a cucumber. Normally, I like to serve hot hors d'oeuvres at a party, but not for the summer. So the great thing about this appetizer is it's all cold. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take a cucumber. Now, try to find those cucumbers that are not waxed. Oftentimes, stores will wax cucumbers. I don't even know why they do it, but they do it. And sometimes you can wash it off, but it's really not perfect. If you look for organic cucumbers or even cucumbers from farmers markets, they don't wax them. Then you're going to peel the cucumber, probably every 1/4 of an inch, basically creating stripes. And what that's gonna do is create a really nice decorative edge for your summer cup. You're gonna slice off both ends, and then you're gonna cut the cucumber about 1/2 inch all the way down. Then you're gonna take a melon baller. You wanna take the smaller portion of the melon baller and just scoop out the flesh of the cucumber. But you wanna really be careful that you don't scoop all the way into the cup and then cut through the bottom. The idea is to create like a nice little cup. You're gonna take all that cucumber flesh and then chop it up. To that, you're gonna add your cucumber flesh to about 1 cup of yogurt. I really like Greek yogurt because I think the texture is really nice. It's creamier and just a little bit heavier than regular yogurt, but plain yogurt would work just as well. Then you're gonna add 1 garlic clove, salt and pepper, capers, and then some freshly snipped chives. Then you're gonna take some smoked salmon. You're gonna cut the salmon just roughly to 1-inch pieces. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's actually better, I think, if it's kind of rough and more rustic looking. And you're gonna push that into the cucumber cup, almost like a little blankie that you're putting into the cup. Then you're going to take a dollop of your yogurt mixture and put that on top, and then garnish with chives. And that's it. I love this appetizer because I think it's cool, it's refreshing, it looks elegant, it's so simple to do, and it's really the perfect flavor complement with the lemon balm cocktail. So this next appetizer isn't really a recipe as much as it is an idea. So it's sliced radishes with sea salt, butter on a sliced baguette. I know, it sounds totally bizarre, but it is really delicious. And the way that I was introduced to this recipe was through my husband. So my husband grew up in France, and every summer he would eat radishes and butter. It was something his grandmother would always make for him, and he always has such fond memories of her. And so for him, it isn't summer unless he can have radishes and butter. So the first year we had this garden, we planted radishes. They're one of the easiest vegetables to grow. We knew nothing about gardening, so we thought we would start with something super simple. We put some seeds in the ground, and 22 days later, we had these beautiful vegetables. And my daughter couldn't have been more excited. She thought it was the coolest thing. She was about 3 at the time. She went out there, she picked all these radishes, and we sliced them and cut them and served them to my husband on Father's Day. It was perfect. We planted the garden on Mother's Day, and then on Father's Day, he got to enjoy the fruits of our first harvest. To serve this dish, I really like to use a cutting board. I think it's fun, it's rustic, it sort of speaks to the garden theme. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a little container and fill it with salt. Then you're gonna take another little dish and put your butter in it. I just think the butter looks a lot prettier if it's softened and you can kind of scoop it into the dish as opposed to just having like a stick of butter sitting on a cutting board. It just doesn't look as good. Then you're gonna slice your radishes really thinly. Radishes are pretty spicy, so the thinner they are, the better it's gonna be. You're not gonna get this like intense bite of radish if you have a big thick piece. And I like to just put them on the cutting board, just kind of loosely scattered about. I think they look really pretty that way. And then you're gonna take a fresh baguette, cut it on the bias, and just nestle that around in among the radishes. And you're good to go. I think there's something extra special about grilled vegetables as a first course. And as luck would have it, all of these vegetables are at their peak right now. So it's zucchini and eggplant and tomatoes. And these were all the vegetables that started coming up around mid-July, the first year we had our garden. So they're extra special for me. So what you do is you're gonna start with the eggplant. You're gonna slice the eggplant about 1/4 inch thick. You're gonna brush that with a little olive oil, salt and pepper on each side, and then you're gonna grill them. If you don't have a barbecue, that's okay. This can all be done indoors on a grill pan. Once the eggplant is getting kind of lightly charred, you don't wanna overdo it, but you do want some nice marks on it, just take it off and set it aside. You're gonna do the same exact thing to the zucchini. You're gonna slice it lengthwise, brush it with olive oil, salt and pepper, and then grill that. To assemble the salad, here's what you do. You want to put all of your eggplant around the perimeter of the platter. Then on top of that, you're gonna add your zucchini and just place the zucchini 1 inch below the eggplant so that the eggplant is still visible. Then you're gonna take 3 balls of burrata mozzarella and place that in the center. So once you have your burrata positioned on your grilled vegetables, it's time to make the cherry tomato salad. I really like to take red cherry tomatoes and yellow cherry tomatoes. They're 2 things that I grow in my garden all summer long, but you can find them at the grocery store. You just buy 1 of each. I think the color combination is really pretty, especially this time of year when they're at their peak. You're gonna take the cherry tomatoes and slice them in half. Just makes it easier for everybody to eat. There's nothing worse than chomping down on a whole cherry tomato, so you wanna make it a little easier for your guests. Then you're gonna make a homemade vinaigrette. I have got my vinaigrette down to a science. I think the best proportion is 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1 teaspoon of white balsamic vinegar. You're gonna mix those 2 together, and then 4 tablespoons of grapeseed oil. What you're actually doing is creating what we call an emulsion. If you took all that oil and poured it into your vinaigrette, it would separate and it wouldn't combine, no matter how much you tried to mix it together. Once that's combined, then you're gonna season it with a little salt and pepper, and if you're feeling extra fancy, you could throw in a pinch of herbes de Provence. And then you're going to take that vinaigrette and toss your cherry tomatoes in it until all the cherry tomatoes are combined. And then you're gonna chop fresh basil and put that in the salad as well and toss all together. You're gonna take that mixture and pour it over the burrata cheese, and you will see you will start to have the most beautiful looking summer salad. To just finish it off, you're going to drizzle some olive oil across all of your grilled vegetables and then garnish it with a little fresh chopped parsley. And this salad is so beautiful. It's as beautiful as it is delicious. Your guests will ooh and ah when you bring that to the table. I love to serve this dish family style. I think there's nothing more welcoming than to serve a first course in this manner because people can help themselves, they're passing the dish to one another. If people don't know each other well, it's a great conversation starter and it just makes it feel more like family and more like home. Now for the main course, my grilled lemon herb chicken. I love this recipe because it's really simple to do and it's pretty inexpensive to make. So to make the marinade, you're gonna start with some Dijon mustard. To that, you're gonna add some vinegar and some olive oil. You're gonna slowly whisk that all up. Then you're gonna add a few garlic cloves, some salt and pepper, herbes de Provence, and lemon zest. I have learned over the years not to put lemon juice in marinades. If you leave lemon juice to sit with chicken for too long, you're gonna end up with a rubbery, mushy mess. So the best thing to do is really get the flavor from the zest. So go ahead and zest probably about 3 lemons into this marinade. And then the secret ingredient, the Worcestershire sauce. I love Worcestershire sauce in marinades because it adds just a little bit of saltiness and gives it kind of a depth of flavor, but you only need 1 or 2 drops. That'll do the trick. Then the next step is to prepare your chicken. Here is a cost-saving tip. I love to use pounded chicken when I entertain for parties because then you don't have to buy a chicken breast for each person. It literally makes the chicken breasts larger. So you just pound it out and then you're gonna cut it in half. So for a party of like 8 people, you could probably get away with 4 chicken breasts or 6 tops if you want everybody to have maybe a little extra. So pound it out in between 2 pieces of waxed paper until you get it to about 1/4 inch thin. Then you're gonna cut that in half. And then drop the chicken in the marinade and let it marinate for probably about 30 minutes. And you don't need a barbecue for this recipe. This can all be done on a grill pan indoors. So you want to lightly oil your grill pan and get that thing smoking hot. If it's not hot enough, the chicken is actually just going to sit there, not make grill marks, and it's going to get all sticky and kind of turn into a mess. Then you're going to place the chicken down and let it grill. Don't get antsy and try to lift up the chicken and check it, because what you're going to do is you're going to mess up your grill marks and you're not going to get a nice sear on it. So just let it do its thing for about 5 to 7 minutes. When the edges of the chicken start to sort of turn white and opaque, that's when it's time to flip it. So you're going to flip the chicken and grill it for another probably 3 to 4 minutes on the other side, just until it's done. I am a big fan of making things look pretty, especially for entertaining. And one of the things that's really great to garnish this dish with is with some grilled lemons. So you're gonna take the lemons and put them on the grill for just a few minutes, just until they get nice grill marks to them. And what that's gonna do is really sweeten up those lemons a little bit. Don't get me wrong, they're still lemons, they're still gonna be lemony and a little bit acidic, but it's not gonna be as powerful than if you just put raw lemons on the chicken. When you serve this dish, you're gonna encourage your guests to take the grilled lemon and squeeze it on top. And what that's gonna do is just create a very nice light sauce that will bring out the flavors in the chicken. And for a side dish with this meal, I think a really great option is an Israeli couscous salad with sugar snap peas and fresh parsley. If you're not familiar with Israeli couscous, it's actually bigger than regular couscous and more like the consistency of pasta. So it has a chewy texture to it that's really great hot or cold. And in this instance, I would recommend serving this at room temperature. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna prepare the couscous according to the package instructions. Once that's done, you're gonna set it aside, drain it, and toss it with just a little bit of olive oil. That will prevent the couscous from kind of sticking together and getting clumpy. So after the couscous, then you want to saute the onion. You're going to take some red onion. I love red onions because I think they're sweeter than the regular onions, and just saute them until they're nicely caramelized and maybe just a little bit charred. Then you're going to take your sugar snap peas. You want to blanch these vegetables, and blanching is just basically taking vegetables, submerging them in boiling water just for a few minutes to kind of cook the rawness out of them. You don't want to take it too far, so like 1 to 2 minutes is probably good. Then you're going to take it out of the water and submerge it in cold, icy water. And what that's going to do is stop the cooking and retain the color. So to assemble the salad, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the couscous, you're gonna mix it together with some olive oil, season with salt and pepper, add your onions, your snap peas, and your fresh parsley, and mix that all together. And anytime I'm making a salad like this that has a lot of ingredients that need to be mixed, I usually mix it together first in a big Pyrex bowl. That's because you don't really wanna mess up your serving bowl with all this mixing. Then right before you serve it, I would take that and transfer it to probably a more decorative bowl that I would want for serving, and then that way that bowl remains kind of clean and it just looks prettier. And this is a great flavor combination. You've got kind of the chewiness of the Israeli couscous, but you've got the freshness of the sugar snap peas. You really feel summery, and every time I serve this dish, people are always so surprised by the flavor combination and they just really love it. And it's a great way to kind of celebrate summer. Now for dessert. This is one of my favorite desserts to make, and my family always goes nuts for this dessert. It's so much so that they always request it every time we get together. It is my fig and almond tart. This time of year in California, we start to see a lot of fresh figs, and I love baking with figs, especially with almonds. It is a great flavor combination if you haven't already tried it. So the first thing you want to do is make the crust. So in a food processor, you're going to put together flour, salt, and sugar, and just pulse that up quickly. Then you're gonna add butter. Here's tip number 1 for the perfect tart shell. You wanna make sure your butter is completely cold. In fact, I will even take the butter, chop it all up into the little cubes, and stick it in the freezer for probably about 10 or 15 seconds, just to make sure that it's really, really cold. You're gonna add the butter piece by piece, pulsing all the while until you get like a coarse meal that starts to develop. Here's tip number 2. Recipes that always have egg yolk in it are always going to create a better tart shell than recipes that don't. I've found that all the recipes that don't have egg yolk in it turn into kind of like a crumbly mess, and they usually don't end up looking as pretty and they kind of fall apart on you. Tip number 3 is you want to make sure that that ice water is also extremely cold. So what I will do is I will take a glass, I will fill it with ice, pour a little water in it, and then measure out the ice water. That way you're assured that your water is really, really cold. So you mix the egg yolk with a little bit of water and then slowly pour it into the food processor and pulse. You're going to take that dough out of the food processor and put it on a floured surface and kind of shape it into a ball and then turn it into a disc. And then you're going to wrap that disc up with plastic wrap that's going to kind of keep it together and allow it not to dry out. And place it in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. While your dough is firming up, you're going to make the filling. So the filling is just butter and sugar and almond paste whipped together. Now, if you've never worked with almond paste before, you can buy it in the grocery store in the baking aisle. You don't want to confuse it with marzipan almond candy dough because that's something different. This really will just say almond paste. You whirl that up together until it's light and fluffy. Then you're going to add your eggs, kind of scraping down the bowl as you go to make sure that everything is well incorporated. Once your egg and butter mixture is all combined, then you're going to add 1 teaspoon of almond extract. Then you're going to slowly add the flour. If you mix the flour too much, you're going to develop all those glutens in the flour and you're going to end up with a tough cake. So you want to just kind of easy does it on the mixing. So here is tip number 4. And for me, this is the most important tip of all and the best tip of all because it has to do with leaving out a step. Every tart shell recipe I always come across, they say to pre-bake the tart shell, and it doesn't make it any better. In fact, I think it hurts the tart shell because what ends up happening is it bakes and it sort of buckles and then it shrinks and the tart shell isn't as pretty as it could be. So years ago, I just decided I wasn't gonna do that step. And especially with this tart, you do not have to. So once your filling is ready, go get your tart dough, roll it out, and if it's not perfect, that's okay because you're gonna kind of patch the dough all together. Now here is tip number 5. This is really important if you're not gonna pre-bake your tart shell. You've gotta take that shell once it's all back into your tin and stick it in the freezer for 10 minutes. That's gonna firm that tart shell up so that when you put it in the oven, it doesn't automatically start to melt. It actually needs a running start. It needs to be really cold to prevent that happening. Add your filling, slice your figs in half, and then you're gonna place your figs decoratively along the tart shell. Once all your figs are on your tart, then you're gonna take some sliced almonds and sprinkle them all over the top and they will sort of bake into the tart and create a really nice decorative touch once it's fully cooked. Once your tart is completely cool, set it out on a decorative platter and add some powdered sugar to it. I love powdered sugar on desserts because I feel like it hides a multitude of sins. If something didn't bake right or something's too brown in one area, dust a little powdered sugar on and it just looks beautiful and hides all of that. A perfect complement to this dessert is some homemade whipped cream. Yes, I know you can buy whipped cream in the can at the store, but really homemade whipped cream is so much better. You're gonna end up with a pure tasting cream that you can control the sweetness and the consistency is better. To make the whipped cream, you're gonna take about 2 cups of heavy cream and put it in the bowl of a standing mixer. Now, if you don't have a standing mixer, that's okay. You could use a hand mixer, or you could even use just a wire whisk and a big bowl. You could do it by hand, like they did in the olden days. That would totally work. To sweeten the cream, you're gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract and some powdered sugar. Then you're gonna whip that up. You whip it up just until soft peaks form. You don't really wanna take it too far, just so that it kind of begins to come together and sort of stand on its own. And that's all you have to do. Your whipped cream is done. Bring the tart out on a footed pedestal with the whipped cream in a beautiful bowl. That way people see the tart in all its glory, they see that you've made this beautiful batch of whipped cream, and you'll get a lot of oohs and ahs that way. And then I like to cut the tart at the table. Again, I just think that it feels more like family that way. It's a little bit more interactive, and will just add the perfect end to the perfect evening. So the day before the party, here's what I want you to do. You're gonna mix your yogurt sauce with the cucumber cups. Just keep it covered and place it in the fridge. Then you're gonna make the vinaigrette for the cherry tomatoes, keep that covered and place in the fridge. Make the marinade for the chicken. If you want, go ahead and mix it all up in your Pyrex dish that you're gonna marinate it in. That way it's all ready to go. Just cover it with some foil. Make the tart dough, turn it into discs, wrap in plastic and place it in the fridge. Make your homemade whipped cream, just put it in a Tupperware container and pop that in the fridge. Morning of the party. The day is here. Here's what you want to do first. You want to bake your tart and keep it at room temperature. Make the couscous, blanch the snap peas, toss with a little olive oil to prevent clumping, and then keep well covered. Don't add the parsley yet until you're ready to serve. Otherwise, it'll lose its flavor and you won't get much out of the herb. Grill the eggplant and zucchini and keep that at room temperature. Peel your cucumbers and create the cups, but don't fill them yet. Make your pitcher of lemon balm cocktails. Just add the lemon juice, the agave syrup, and vodka. Don't add the sparkling water or the ice yet. Guests will do that when it's time to serve them. Pound out the chicken and place it in a Ziploc bag. I love to store meat in Ziploc bags because when it's time to grill them and the party is in full swing, you don't have to wrestle around with dishes and then create more dishes for yourself that then need to be cleaned. 15 minutes before guests arrive, start to assemble the summer cups and the radish platter. Once your guests have arrived, everybody's enjoying the drinks and the appetizers, you want to check your clock. So about 30 minutes before you want to serve dinner, politely excuse yourself from the table and head to the kitchen. Assemble the Italian salad, and then call everybody to the table. Now, this process takes time. I don't know why, but it takes a while to corral 8 people to the table when they're drinking, laughing, and having appetizers. So while that's all going on, enlist a friend to kind of help with that so that you can get the salad ready and get it to the table. Once you're finished with the salad, enlist another friend to help clear the plates. While they're clearing the plates of the first course, you can be grilling the chicken. Grill the chicken until done, garnish with the lemon and the thyme, and then lightly toss your couscous salad with the fresh parsley. It's now time to serve dinner and enjoy a leisurely summer meal. So if you're looking to create a garden-themed party, but you don't have a garden or you may live in a city, here are a couple tips I have for you on how to get the look. First of all, when it comes to centerpieces, this is not the time for fussy flower arrangements. They can get expensive and it's just not the right theme for something like that. Instead, I would recommend some potted herbs. They smell wonderful, they look beautiful, they're easy to care for, and they're very inexpensive. When setting the table, look for items that have great texture to it. I really love to set my table with basket placemats because to me, anytime I think of a basket, I think of the garden. Or you can find little glasses that have nice rattan detail to them or any kind of basketry. That always looks great and always kind of speaks to the garden. When you're looking at glassware, I always say go for low glasses. When you're dining outside and people are in a garden, stemware can get a little tricky and can spill. And also, I just think it's more fun and casual to drink wine out of little tumblers. So I like to use those little bistro glasses that I also serve juice in. Another great centerpiece idea is also just to use fresh produce. So I love the look of a radish. I think they're so beautiful and striking, especially when submerged in water. Keep the tops where they look nice and green and leafy, and then down at the bottom you'll see their beautiful red bulbs, and that also can be a great inexpensive centerpiece. When I'm entertaining, I love candlelight, but sometimes when you're entertaining outdoors, candles can be tricky because they tend to blow out a lot. So I like to go old school and get camping lanterns. I would also say serve things in a casual way. So even on cutting boards make great serving pieces, baskets make great serving pieces. Again, anything to kind of convey that rustic, carefree style is great for a garden themed party. And then my final tip is when you serve water at the table, take some time to put some fresh mint, maybe some lemon, fresh cucumber. There's nothing that says summer and garden more than the combination of mint, lemon, and cucumbers. So that's it. That's how you throw the perfect summer dinner party. I know you guys can do it. I'll be rooting for you every step of the way, but I do want to hear how it goes. So leave me a comment and let me know the results. Best of luck, and remember, have fun. It's supposed to be fun.